So the last slide, if you can remember. Please start. We'll see today the different types of business ethics. Broadly categorized into only three, but it will cover all the aspects of values which we have been talking about. The first is transactional ethics. Transactional ethics is, if you could read the definition, the domain of ethics which are covering transactions that are performed on the basis of simultaneous, instantaneous, or connected interests and that are general by principles of equality, honesty, and reciprocity is indicated as a domain of transactions. Few examples I have written here. So examples will make you understand exactly what we have meant by that. Now the word transaction means any kind of dealings happening between two persons. That may be the words which are being exchanged, thoughts which are being exchanged, those could also be called as transactions. When we say transaction, immediate thought comes to our mind is monetary transactions. That is a common word which we use for the transactions. Monetary transactions means you are giving money to somebody, taking money from somebody, withdrawing money from the bank, depositing money in somebody's account, taking a loan, paying installments. So all which are related to the financial terminologies, there we try to see that we use that word very often, transaction. But other than that, wherever you are exchanging something, that becomes a transaction. Even if you are sending some kind of an information to somebody, that also becomes a transaction. If you are communicating with somebody and discussing certain issues or maybe certain things related to your business, related to your job responsibility, related to your profile, that will also become a transaction. So in simple terms, transaction is the communication between the two persons by whatever means. Do you have, you are in first semester, right? Do you have a subject called as business communication? Okay, but that may be then later. So there are different types of communications, which of course we will learn in detail. I won't go much into detail of it. So when these different types are broadly classified, there are only two types. One is verbal and second is non-verbal. And third is written. So verbal communication is what is happening right now. When one person is talking to many, when you people talk amongst yourself, that will also be verbal communication, which happens with the help of words and basically with the help of speaking. Then second is non-verbal. It means with the help of not the words, but your facial expressions, your entire body language, the way you use your hands and maybe entire body to communicate, that communication is called as non-verbal communication. In this non-verbal communication, there is one more part which is associated with non-verbal. Some of the scientists, they say that vocalics means how I am using my sound, how I am using my voice for the purpose of communication. That also matters. And there is a research done in communication science, and they have proven that whatever I am talking to you or whatever you people are talking to each other, the impact of the words for understanding the message which is sent by somebody else, the impact of those words, impact of that communication with the help of words is only 7%. Whereas just on 93% is impact of facial gestures and the way it is said. The way it is said means the vocalics. You might be seeing or watching dramas or movies, etc. Right? Don't you watch dramas and movies? So a certain particular actor or actress, he or she plays a role of some XYZ person. Maybe as he will be playing some kind of a character, maybe as a doctor, maybe as an engineer, maybe as a shopkeeper, maybe as a salesperson, whatever role they play. But then you will not get a feeling that that actor is playing that role, but you will get a feeling that actually a doctor is speaking. Why that could happen? Because when somebody acts, that person tries to get everything related to the communication in his own body language, facial expressions, and the way it is said. In typical terminology of drama, we call it as a diction. So how do you say a particular dialogue? And there is a different way by which people say the dialogue. So we have got certain actors and actresses in Hindi movies, as far as I can give you the example of Bollywood. So we know that Nasruddin Shah, then there is one actor which recently passed away, Irfan. Then there are many such actors who are known to be the fine actors. Even Amitabh Bachchan could be categorized into that, though he is a superstar, because they have got one typical way of saying the dialogues. If you can recollect the old movie of from where Amitabh Bachchan picked up, which is that movie which made Amitabh Bachchan a hero? Zanjeer, where he had played the role of an inspector, of a police inspector. So there is one dialogue which became very famous, "जब तक बैठने को ना कहो, बैठना नहीं." You know, that is an incident which happens in a police station. So the way he has said that dialogue, the way he has portrayed the entire character, the main part of the character was his facial expressions, the way his body language is being used. So if somebody is playing a police inspector in the movie, he will behave like a police inspector. His entire body will be like a police inspector. He will not play the role of a lover or a typical romantic hero. It will not gel well with the kind of role which he is playing. What I am trying to tell you is that whenever communication happens, 93% impact is of all those kind of things which are not the words. So only when the hero takes the entry, the way he walks, the way he will have expressions on his faces, the way he will be using his entire gestures, hand and body to communicate to his subordinates or maybe the people in this office, his colleagues, that makes a lot of impact rather than the words. So it has been proven that 93% impact is of your facial expressions, your body language. Out of that 93%, you can do the calculation. 58% is facial expressions are how you are using your body, and remaining, I think it is 37. 30. कितना रहता है? 58. 93 minus 58 करो. 35. So 35% is the impact how you are saying a particular dialogue. How means how you are using vocalics. Now when the teachers are teaching you, you can go back to your school and college days, and certain lectures you must have been experiencing those are very boring. Why? The reason is only vocalics. The teacher is very much monotonous, as we say. The teacher is very monotonous, means he will dictate the notes. Typically when teacher is dictating the notes, this is how he will be dictating. Okay, all of you take the notebooks and start writing, and then he will say the domain of ethics covering transactions. Then he will say so we are writing. Okay, that are performed on the basis of simultaneous or connected interest. Now you are not interested in what you are listening. You are only interested in writing. You will probably not read what you are writing. The only reason is the way that lecturer, that teacher tells you. So typically in a dictation of the notes, this happens. The lecturer will become too much monotonous, and there will not be any impact of his understanding. Now consider that this teacher is teaching you and he is talking in the same way. That the way the transactions are happening is called as transactional ethics. You will get bored because there are no ups and downs in the voice. There are no changes in the voice. And that also has been proven to be very impactful or creating an impact in your non-verbal communication, which is called as a vocalics. So how somebody uses his voice. So the people who are in acting, the people who are in dramas, in movies, they have got those kind of either abilities or interests. Those people are said to be good communicators. So therefore you might have seen most of the politicians or most of the speakers who have become great, they have the ability to change their voice. Changing the voice means to put certain things with a forceful manner, and wherever the delicacy comes, they will change their voice accordingly. Can you imagine this? That a politician is giving the speech, then he is talking, we need to change the systems in India. So he will give each and every stress on the word which he is thinking is important for every audience to listen. So ups and downs in the voice, we call it as a modulation of the voice that is required for a better communication. If a monotonous voice comes, then probably you will not understand anything what the person is speaking. So 35% is impact of how it is said vocalics. 58% is he will have facial expressions and he will have the entire body language being used. For example, if a politician wants to say we are expected to cut the poverty from India, so he could simply say like this: we have to cut the poverty from India. You will understand, you will hear, but the impact will be only 7%. But then if he says we have to cut the poverty from India, cut the poverty from India. So he will yell, he will change the voice. At the same time, his expressions will be there, and then he will indicate with the help of some kind of a sword, and it is so easy that you cut the poverty by using the sword. But then you will have more impact of that words because of vocalics and his facial expressions. I'll give you another simple example which will probably you can connect with it. When you are at home and you are studying, rather you are not studying. What happens at home? Your mother is always behind you. Study karo, padhai karo, exams are coming up, so why don't you study, why are you wasting your time, why are you on WhatsApp? So she will keep on yelling. So mother is one such soft part in our house, nobody listens to her. Do you agree with this? Maybe some of your mothers may be very strict, but then in general I would say 99% mothers are very considerate and you won't bother what mother is telling you. The father comes from the office in the evening and then your mother will tell to your father that she is not listening or he is not listening since morning. You are behind him or her, telling him to study. She is not listening. The moment father comes, he will simply call you. So he doesn't have to speak anything. Only with the help of his facial expressions he will tell you. Utho, eyes widened, go to your bed and start studying. And then when he is there in some other room and you are in some other corner of the room, he will simply say from that corner, what's going on there? Are you not starting? Right? So that voice tone will have a different kind of impact in your understanding of the communication. Coming back to a major point, that whenever communication happens, it may be verbal communication, as I have given you an example which is related to exchanging of the thoughts by speaking, which we often do. Even if you are sharing some kind of incidences which have happened in your life, maybe while coming to the train, you happen to meet somebody whom you didn't recognize, he tried to talk to you. So you are sharing this particular incident to a friend. Now you, from henceforth, you observe the facial expressions of your friend who is telling you the incidents. He will be able to tell you the incidents and you will be able to imagine that incidents what has happened. This will depend upon that friend how impactfully he is telling you. So he will be using a lot of gestures, he or she will be using a lot of gestures, a lot of body language, a lot of facial expressions, so that you will understand the exact situation, and then we say that the transaction is very much impactful or very much effective. Getting that? So communication is one area where we communicate with each other with the help of voice, with the help of non-verbal cues. Those are called as non-verbal cues, non-verbal kind of ways or symbols, facial expressions which you are using. Those are called non-verbal. We don't use any words here, as I have given an example. So you simply have to change your expressions and then you will understand what the person wants to say. And 35% is how you are saying. So whenever you are listening to somebody, unless or until that person is not using his facial expressions properly and not using the vocalics properly, impact is only 7%. That is the reason why very often you will say that that lecture is very boring, that lecturer is very boring. Because he will be sitting on a chair, no expression on the face, even if he is teaching, even if he is dictating, the tone will remain the same. The impact will be, your understanding will be only 7%, proven by the research done across the world. So the transaction in that case will not be very much effective as far as the communication is concerned. There is third form of communication which is more required from business perspective, called as a written communication. Now written communication further could be divided to print communication, then maybe email communication, WhatsApp communication, but then we'll club all the things together, because whenever you are trying to understand, when you are reading something, that we call as written. That may be handwritten notes, that may be some books which you are reading, that may be some magazines which you are reading, newspapers which you are reading, then maybe some online content you are reading, e-book, or what do you call, your Kindle versions, or PDFs, or maybe some messages on WhatsApp, certain things, certain emails which you are checking on your WhatsApp. So something which you are reading and then you are trying to understand, that's called as written communication. And in industry, in businesses, lot of importance is given to the written communication, because that is formulating the proof of any kind of transactions happen between you and somebody else. So you will hear these words very often in the industries, that if you want to say something and the manager doesn't want to listen, he will say, okay, give it to me in writing. Or they say, give it to me in black and white. Black and white means you take a white paper and write with a black ink. In simple terms, writing. So whenever something is to be given in writing, people are not ready to do that. Because that written part can be used as a proof against you very often. That's the reason why people ask for writing the things, because that can be used against you in the future if at all required. So when it comes to written communication, people are very cautious. Whenever you are sending any messages, you have to be very cautious, because all those messages are saved on something called as a server. Even if you delete the messages from your WhatsApp, all those messages are saved on WhatsApp server. Who owns WhatsApp now? Who owns WhatsApp now? It is purchased by whom? Meta, but who belongs to Meta? Facebook, of course. Yeah. So he has purchased. So whatever messages you think, now for the sake of safety and nobody should read it from a handset you have deleted, those messages are available on the server of Meta or server of WhatsApp. So you don't delete it. So therefore, in cases where somebody has sent some unexpected message to somebody or unwanted messages, some unpleasant request, so both the parties go delete it from the handset. So police will find it out. They will contact WhatsApp servers, the concerned authorities, and they can retrieve all the kind of information, written communication which has happened between you and the other person. So written communication, whenever it comes, people are very cautious. You will also have to be very cautious whenever you are writing WhatsApp, writing email. Even Supreme Court has given a decision that WhatsApp communication could be treated as a formal communication. That's why we will be sending you the notes on WhatsApp. I have taken Bhavi's number, so I'll be sending my notes of this subject to Bhavi. If at all you have any group, he will communicate to you. If you don't get it, Bhavi is responsible. So, because I can always, we have got a saying in Marathi, I can always take my hands up. Since I have sent it to him, he is responsible now. My duty is done. I can show you that I have sent to him, he has not communicated with you. So written communication, written transaction is always treated very much authentic, very formal and very much official. Whereas verbally you may say, मैंने बोला ही नहीं था ऐसे, you don't have any proof. Even if there are CCTV cameras, to the best of my knowledge, I have not come across a CCTV camera which can record the sound or record the voice. As far as my knowledge goes, you might have seen it. So you can only see the images that somebody is stabbing someone, but then you don't know what they were talking about. You cannot retrieve that data. So likewise, verbally if you tell something to somebody, you may say, मैंने बोला ही नहीं था, कब बोला था, हम तो मिले ही नहीं थे. People can go to that extent. There was a joke on the students who had gone to some party with the friends home, and then next day everybody's parents are asking, where were you yesterday night? So they are taking different kind of reasons. So actually नहीं हम पार्टी के लिए नहीं गए थे, हम स्टडी के लिए गए थे, ये तो मेरे ही साथ था कल. And then somebody picks up a phone and then he says, yes daddy, tell me. So he is talking in the voice of his friend as if his daddy is calling. So you can go to that extent as far as talking lies is concerned. Because anyways it cannot be provided as a proof unless you decide to maintain that. There was a very big scam in our political system in India which was very famous by the name sting operation. Are you aware what is that sting operation? So somebody has gone to a minister's cabin and without knowing the minister, he recorded his voice. And nowadays it has become very common. You can record the incidences happening. People are more interested in recording the video of the accident which has happened rather than helping the person who has made an accident. So evidences are there nowadays, but earlier that was not allowed properly, that was not done. So there were few ministers who were caught because of that sting operation. So therefore now if you go to Mantralaya, you are not allowed to take your handset or mobile inside. You have to keep it outside, or maybe you have to show them that it is totally switched off, and then only you will be allowed to go in. So that no scams will be coming out of the surface. Okay, the prior discussion from which we have gone so much ahead or out of the topic, in a way, not out of the topic directly. So it is transactions which happen. So whichever transactions are happening, which are recorded properly, those transactions will be said to be written. Now you transfer money. Now one common thing which all people do is GPay or Google Pay, PayPal, whatever you are using, software, Beam Pay. So you pay a transaction, scan that QR code and you pay the money. I have seen people paying 1 rupee or 2 rupee or even on Panta price for taking a Hall's tablet. 1 rupee, scan and pay. And that is recorded in your bank account. So if that person says, "Aapne diya nahi tha," you can show, this is 1 rupee which I paid, this is your number. So whenever the transactions are in hard copies, in soft copies or maintained somewhere or written somewhere, those transactions are to be dealt very carefully. The people sitting at the last, are you doing some other assignment? No, because I am seeing that you people are writing something. I have not asked you to write anything, because I will be circulating all these PPTs to you. So you need to write a single word. Okay, so what I was telling you is transactional. So when you are designing your company and your system, which will be designing some kind of policies, so those policies are always in the form of a document. Yesterday I have told you, if you go to some company and you are being inducted, at that time you will be made to sit in front of a PC, and then one folder will be kept open and it will be told these are the policies. You can just go through, read. If at all you have got any queries, this person is to be contacted. Why that is there? Because all the policies, all the norms, all rules, regulations, all rules of ethics, etc., those are very much documented there, and you have to follow all of them. And as I said yesterday, the same documents are available on your common server, and you can visualize or you can go through those documents anytime, whenever you want, once you log into the system. The point is, all whatever we want to communicate, we want to transact, we want to let the people know, could be in the form of some kind of a document. So here I have written some example which you need to understand what do I mean by transactional ethics. And transactional ethics means how should we communicate with each other. Now no company would expect that you should be always talking in a raised voice, you should be talking very decently, you should be using very official language, you should be even very decent in your behavior, in your body language, you should not tease anyone. So there are certain kind of ethics which are related to talking with each other verbally. And then when it comes to writing, some of the companies, they do have certain standard formats of email, certain standard formats of certain circulation of messages, standard formats for sending the agenda of the meeting, standard formats for maintaining the minutes of meeting. Everything is standardized as far as the data maintenance is concerned. And that becomes the transactional value system which that particular company has devised. The reason for this transactional value system is that it should be standardized, that is one thing. Then nobody should say that I was not knowing this, I was not informed, I was not aware about this. These kind of words nobody should be saying any of the times, because through the written communication, through the written documentation is very much clear. The example I will start from here, terms and conditions. With different contexts, I have already spoken about terms and conditions in the earlier cases. Like if you take certain loan, then they will ask you to sign on different documents. So you don't read it. And when the problem comes, then when you start fighting with those people, they will simply show you that document, or probably they will tell you, okay, you have that PDF which you have sent about the document which you signed, open that PDF, go to page number 54, read row number 9, it was mentioned there. Now you cannot say that I didn't know that. Very often those bank people will say, have you gone through the document which you have given to you? And your answer is no. Or wherever you are registering online on different sites, you might be registering on the sites of journals. I don't know whether you have done it or not, but when research methodology comes, you will have to do it. So you will log into some systems, you will select a login ID and a password, and then that particular website will ask you to click or tick on a checkbox, a square font, a square kind of a figure is there. You are supposed to just click on that, and further it is written, I accept the terms and conditions. My question is, how many of you have clicked on the terms and conditions already? Okay, imagine even if you sometimes, so very rarely. When you are registering where you don't have to give anything, then probably you don't read terms and conditions. But if you want to give something, or if you are taking something which is very much legal, maybe the loan, or maybe some kind of documentation, maybe some kind of letter of offer, some documents have been received by some different departments, some kind of complaints will be done. Those are the things which you will usually read. But generally, you don't read those terms and conditions, because anyways those are PDFs of long pages, 100 pages, 150 pages, we don't read. And then when the problem comes, then the company people always have this saying that we have already communicated. You have put a tick mark on I accept. Accepting cookies, that is there in all the websites nowadays. So you will have to very cautiously click on whether you want to accept, whether you want to accept only when you are logging at that time, or whether you don't want to accept the cookies. Whenever you are accepting the cookies, it means whatever information you are keying in through that PC or other PC also, through your login, all that will be saved at the back end of the system. So if you inputted your email address somewhere in some another system, if you accept the cookies, and if that particular website is asking you your email address, then the moment you click on email address, your email address will pop up. your name will pop up, your father's name will pop up, your age will pop up. If you work somewhere, you have done graduation, the graduation degree will pop up. Then the college where you attended, that will pop up. The class which you have got, everything will be already ready. You don't have to type anything. But then that might be dangerous at times, because these people will be stealing your data and might be using the data for some kind of maybe unethical activities, if at all that company decides to do. So therefore, while making any kind of transactions, you have to be, not you as an individual, as a company, you have to be very much ethical how those transactions should be. So I have given you one example of terms and conditions which are applied, which are nothing but the transactional ethics. So whenever it comes to company communicating you their terms and conditions, either of payment or of a guarantee or a warranty, most of the times guarantee or warranty, there are a lot of terms and conditions which we usually don't use. I'll tell you one experience which I recently had from last 2-3 months before. There was one shaver which I purchased that was belonging to a very international MNC, and then that was an electrical shaver. It stopped working, say, after 3 to 4 months. I don't know what had happened to it, but in none of the applications which were provided with it were working. So I went to the shopkeeper, which is a very famous brand in Pune, Mumbai. It's a multinational brand also, Chroma, not multinational, it's in India, which is owned by again Tata. So I went to the shop and I told them that this is the shaver which I have purchased and this is not working. So they said, okay, tell me, give me the invoice number or something. So nowadays you get everything on your WhatsApp or on your email. So I opened their system, I opened their app, and then I showed them this is the product which I purchased. Then he said, sir, इसका गारंटी तो 6 महीने का है और आपने ये प्रोडक्ट तो 6 महीने पहले परचेस किया. मैंने बोला नहीं, ये तो मैंने अभी परचेस किया, 6 महीने पहले वाला दूसरा है, वो मैंने मेरे फ्रेंड को गिफ्ट में दिया. Then he said he went through the invoice. Yes, there are 2 similar products purchased, so we'll give it to you back. But if that guarantee would have expired after 6 months, he would have simply shown that this is the thing, terms and conditions. After 6 months, the guarantee or warranty gets expired, so we will not give you anything. We will not do anything about it. But then I got the entire product replaced as it is. They give me totally new product because it was within the guarantee or warranty. I have read only one condition, that guarantee or warranty is 6 months. Rest all I didn't read. So if you go and purchase a handset, that handset will also have got 1 year warranty or 1 year guarantee, something like that. But then there are terms and conditions. If the handset falls down, if the glass cracks, then they will not give you replacement. So there are certain things which they will get it done during the warranty period, and all those things are written something called as transaction ethics. So as a company, you have to devise these transactional ethics when you are dealing with everybody. Everybody, when I say, it is all the stakeholders. I have shown you the list of stakeholders in module number 1. Starting from your own employees, then your customers, your suppliers, your dealers, distributors, your stockholders, then your contractors, all the people who are concerned with you by or for the purpose of improvising your business, supporting your business, or maybe helping your business. Maybe the financial organization where you are trying to raise the money, that is also one of the biggest stakeholders, because unless and otherwise they provide you the finance, you cannot start your business. So whatever people you are connecting with, you are communicating with by whatever means, either verbally or on telephone or on WhatsApp or on emails or on app and on ERP or whichever system you have developed. So everything has to be very proper so that nobody tries to deceive anyone, and on the top of it, the purpose of this type of transaction is that you won't deceive somebody else. So you as a company should have a policy that I will not deceive anyone, I will not take anybody to the court unless it is required. So terms and conditions apply. There is one example which I have written, shopping. When you go for shopping, you can either go to the malls for shopping or you can do the shopping at footpaths. Footpath is the shops or maybe the market which is there along the side of the road. Or typically on the footpath you do have, that's what we call as a bargaining in a very sweet words. We go onto the footpath, we want to purchase something. He will tell the cost of that product is 300 rupees. Then you start, अरे भैया 100 रुपये में दे दो. Then भैया will say नहीं 100 रुपये में नहीं, इतना नहीं, परवड़ता नहीं है. So he will try to increase the price, he will try to reduce the price. Somewhere you will meet at one particular common point and you will say, okay, ठीक है, 190 में फाइनल कर देते हैं. Then also while giving you will give 170 rupees, 10 रुपये बाद में दे देंगे. That kind of transactions happen. So there are no rules of ethics. Typically, how many of you from Pune, there was one girl and one boy. The boy is not calculated. Okay, so there is a market. I don't know whether in Mumbai what such market is there, but in Pune we have a market called as a Tulsi Bagh, very famous even in Maharashtra. Is there any such kind of market in Mumbai? Maybe the market which is near to the railway stations. Most of the Crawford market. Crawford market is cheap. I don't think.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So it's not cheap.
So it is a kind of a fashion store which is on the roadside where you can bargain. Right? Fashion street where you can bargain. There's another one concept called as I'm likely to forget some words. So the market on the roadside in simple terms. So whenever you want to purchase anything on the roadside, you definitely bargain. But then when you go to the mall and purchase any dress, any drapery or any kind of material, shoes, anything, do you bargain there? Because we know that bargaining is not allowed or bargaining doesn't happen there because those are brands. The people who are sitting on the streets may not be the brand, so therefore you can always bargain. So there the transaction ethics will be coming into the picture. So when you purchase in the shopping malls, they will clearly tell you no bargaining. There are some of the shops who are displaying the boards, no bargaining, don't ask for credit, somewhat like that. So they have made everything clear to you. That doesn't happen on the street. Whereas street person wala will be more confident. हाँ madam लेके जाओ कुछ नहीं होगा. And the person who is selling you the things on the shop will say नहीं इसका सिर्फ 6 महीने का गारंटी इसके आगे हम कुछ नहीं बता सकते. इसका guarantee the moment you are out of the shop the guarantee only up to that. Whereas street person will give you the lifetime guarantee because he's sure that this is not going to remain for the lifetime. You are also knowing that this is whatever he is talking is all lie. So there probably the shopkeeper is not following the ethics, but the one who is in the mall selling you some product telling you that the guarantee is only for 3 months is more ethical because all those transactions are in the written form or all those transactions could be problematic in the future if he gives some kind of a false commitment. So we have to follow certain transaction ethics when you are formulating a company. So transactional ethics will be some documented part which you should not go away from. And it should be always kept open to the customer. Another example which I have is materialistic transactions. Typically when you are making the transactions about the money, people are very cautious. Even if you want to give single rupee to somebody, you always think twice. So when it comes to materialistic transaction, I have written one example there which I have faced on my own. There was one builder in Pune from whom I booked my first home in my life. And then we sat for the calculation, what is the total square feet area and then what is the total cost I had to pay. So he started calculating, 11 feet 8 inches means 11.8 and 9 feet 3 inches means 9.3. I told him, boss ये ऐसे नहीं होता है, 9 feet 3 inches means 9.25, 9 feet 8 inches means 9.64. नहीं बोला ऐसे कैसा होता है, I am doing this business for last 20 years, I am doing the calculation just like that. But then I told him, no, it is not like that because 12 inch का एक फुट होता है. I tried to communicate him with all possible technological language because 12 inch का एक फुट होता है तो 3 का 0.25 होता है, 3 नहीं होता है, 0.3 नहीं होता है. I tried to communicate him, I tried to convince him. Probably most of you are not even understanding right now. I was just trying to communicate him how falsely he is doing the calculations. Because I being a civil engineer, I tried to communicating कि ऐसा नहीं होता है, ऐसे होता है, कैलकुलेशन ऐसे करना चाहिए, आपके हिसाब से इतना पैसा होता है, मेरे हिसाब से इतना होना चाहिए. Then he told me, देखो, I am doing this for last 20 years, so don't teach me. I told him I am teaching for last 20 years, don't teach me. So he said, you might be teaching something wrong, but I am doing this business for last so many years. I have made crore of rupees by doing the business like that. But in that case, he was doing the business unethically because he was doing the calculation wrong for last 20 years. And if we go by that, the total square foot of the cost of that particular flat, he might have taken at least 10% more by doing the calculation the way he was doing for last 20 years. Those are all unethical transactions. But then probably till 20 years or within 20 years time, nobody might have made him the person like me. But I didn't pay him. I said the calculation will be happening just like that. You will go and ask your architect how he will calculate. Then he went to the architect and he came back. But then he told me, don't tell to anyone. Because I am doing the calculation for the last 21 years like this. So whatever you have told is correct for you only. Don't tell to others. He wanted to make himself safe from the transaction ethics, which he was unfortunately not following since 20 years. So that could be the example of materialistic transaction. So when you are giving money, you are very much careful and you should be very careful. When it comes to a company designing transactional ethics, they have to be very careful in designing the policies about the monetary transactions. So if you go and take the loan of, say, housing loan, many of you might have taken, families might have taken, you might take the housing loan from some housing loan company. There are many, every bank nowadays gives a housing loan. So there are many terms and conditions mentioned. So there are two types of housing loan which usually people go for. One is changing rate of interest and one is fixed rate of interest. Finance people probably may be knowing. Otherwise also it's a very common civilian transaction which we do. So there is a fixed rate of interest, means if you are taking the housing loan at the rate of 12% per annum, less than that, let's say 8% per annum, till the time you repay the entire loan for 20 years, 15 years, whatever is your duration of that loan, you will have to bear 8% rate of interest on the amount of loan which you take. Then there is something called as a variable percentage of loan, where if the government comes up with a scheme that all housing loan will be reduced from 8% to 7.75%. Then your rate of interest will become 7.75%. Next year the government will declare that the housing loan will be at the rate of 8.15%, then your interest will increase. Next year the housing loan will be dropped down to 6%, your interest will decrease. So according to the calculations of the schemes which you want to opt for, those are the transactions which are made very clear. So if you go for a variable rate of interest, your installment will remain the same, but then if you are paying, say, for 15 years, the installment will get reduced to 12 years if it has come down. If it is increased, you have to pay another one more year. Now during this corona time, there was a facility provided by the all banks that you can extend. You don't pay those installments now, you can pay it later. But then there was a lot of interest additionally charged by the banks and all such kind of loan giving companies. And those were all made clear. What they were calling it, anybody remains CS? Moratorium. Moratorium is the word which was coined for such kind of loans which would postpone and you can pay it later. But a lot of money was involved in it, and rather a lot of payment you have to make more rather than you paying your regular installments in a very disciplined way. So transactional ethics are all those kind of rules, regulation, bylaws which you have documented, and you want your company will also go following it, and you want all your customers also to follow it, and all your internal people will also follow it. And as I said, all the stakeholders, you have a contract with a contractor or a material supplier, there is always a written contract. It doesn't happen like that verbally कि तुम कल से आओ ये material वहाँ पे deal करो. I have one of the material supplier, not a material supplier, a transporter who supplies the material, or rather who carries the material from the plant in somewhere near Satara Road and Khed Shivapur. He lifts up the material from there. He has to get it authorized from the plant in Pune, and he has to make it reach somewhere in Thane. I had come with him for 2-3 times just to understand the system. So there is a system which they have defined. They will be paying to that person if he is taking the material from Satara only to Pune, the amount is fixed. If he is going back, while going back also he will be carrying some material from Pune plant to Satara plant, he will be paid extra money because he will be carrying the material along with him for a reverse trip. If he is taking his vehicle vacant without any material in it, then he will not be paid, or he will be paid some amount of money. Specifically when he is coming from Mumbai, Thane to Pune, he will be going vacant without any load on his truck. They call it as a load. So there is no load on his truck, so he will be going free. So still they will pay because ultimately he has to run his truck from Thane to Pune, which will require a lot of diesel consumption. So they will give them some amount. Let's say if per transaction they are giving him 7,000 rupees, for back from Mumbai to Pune they will give him 2,500. So all those things are so fixed that we can calculate the total amount of his years of experience based on a total common trip which he is doing every day. Every day he is going from one place to the another plant to Mumbai plant to Satara at times. So he can calculate for a transaction carrying the material from Thane to Pune, from Pune to Satara, from Satara directly to Thane, how much amount of such trip he can make and how much amount of money he will be able to make in a month and in a year. You will be surprised to know this transportation person is making more money than any senior manager of any company. You can just imagine, transportation person who is only 9th standard pass, and is definitely getting any of the time, any given point of time, more money than an MBA graduate can make. Right? That is the system. But then he has to slog a lot. Every day he might be driving somewhere around 500 or 400 kilometers one way or two way, both the ways. So a lot of struggle is there. Then only you can get the money. Don't think about getting an easy money. You will reach to that level where this transportation person is making around somewhere 2 lakh rupees a month. You will require at least 5 years, assuming that your placements are at the starting placements are starting somewhere at 50,000 rupees or so. Then you will reach 2 lakh rupees somewhere in 5 years, which that person is making right now. Of course, he was in the transportation business for last 20 years. Now he has reached to that particular stage. Point here is that whatever payments are made to him, whatever payments are made to all such kind of agencies, all those are coming under transactional ethics. That person, while carrying the material from Satara to Pune or Pune to Mumbai, he is not supposed to leave his truck or leave his tempo on the roadside and leave the tempo and go around. He is not allowed to do that, because in case of theft, who will be responsible? If the company is giving him, at times there is one very small turning job, maybe this handful, but the weight is somewhere around 150 kg or so. So 2 people required to lift that and put it in a truck. Only that one component he will be carrying from Satara to Mumbai. He will be given 7,500 one way to carry that material. So you can just imagine what must be the cost of that material. So if 2 people can lift it up, if they park the vehicle on the side of the road, then anybody can pick up, 2 people can come and go and sell it. So to avoid that thing happen, they have got very clearly mentioned transactional ethics, that if you are carrying some material of a company, you should not be parking your vehicle somewhere on the roadside. You should not be leaving your vehicle. If at all you are leaving, it should be locked from all the sides. So all those kind of rules, regulations are there. You can see the trucks are moving. Transportation is a very big industry, supply chain and transportation. You will see big trucks are carrying, say, 10 cars in one truck. There is a very big company in India, it's a multinational company, Merck's, which is one of the biggest companies as far as the transportation is concerned. So they have got their docks where they get the material from different countries. They distribute that material to the entire country through the trucks. So there are rules, regulations made for this transportation people, how they make the transactions. Transactions are not in the form of money only. Here I have given the example of transaction of a material from one place to another place. Whatever it is, whether it is material transactions, whether it is financial transactions, whether it is marketing transaction in the form of advertisement. Advertisement could be another good example of a transactional ethics. When you advertise, in module number 4 and 5 there will be some such example I will be telling you. When you advertise, you should not be making any kind of false promises. So there was one fairness cream, I won't again name the fairness cream, you all know, and they used to claim that within 7 days you will become very brilliant, your skin will become brilliant and you will become what you call Gori Chitti. So Gori Chitti you will become in 7 days, and somebody has literally filed a case against that company and that person won. Because if it would have been happening, all the African companies or African people would have purchased that cream, isn't it? Fairness cream, and every African person would have been looking like a European person. But then it actually doesn't happen. So advertising is also kind of a transaction. You shouldn't be making any kind of false promises, false kind of advertisement, talking something which is not a reality about your product. So there also you have to be very much cautious. So all transactions which you are making, in whatever form, whatever department, with whichever stakeholders, you have to follow certain transaction ethics. You, whenever I say you, means you being a company or any company, whenever they are making any such kind of transactions, they have to be very carefully drafting that and they have to follow up those. So all examples are done. So you must have understood by what you mean by transactional ethics. Second part is participatory ethics. If you see the name itself, participatory means you are participating in something, you are sharing something with somebody. So participatory ethics reframes the issue of the protection of vulnerable subjects beyond the process of informed consent institutional liability. Further it will explain better. Participatory ethics is about the shape of solidarity, harmony, cohesion in an age of individualization, participating on a regular basis voluntarily. Now, participatory ethics means if I am asking you to do some activity which is to be done in the form of, say, a group or the teams, and every organization will always be working only in the teams or groups. Nobody can say, I have been always telling you this fact, that nobody can say that because of one person the entire organization was successful and because of one person the organization failed. It is always a team which should make the entire organization to succeed or entire organization to fail. So whatever you are doing, you cannot say that I am alone doing, and if I don't do it, the things will not work out. So there is always somebody who will be able to do your work. You can do the work in your industrial places when somebody has forwarded it work to you, and you will forward your work to somebody else. So there is a lot of something called as interdependency, and there is a lot of individualization, even if it is a participant. So whenever you are doing something, some part which may be your job responsibility, job profile, still somebody has to provide you some information on which you will process. Yesterday I had given you the example of data processing or data analysis or research. So think from that perspective. If you are working as an analytics person in an industry, unless until you have the data with you, you cannot analyze anything. So somebody has to provide you that data. That person might be individually sharing the data with you. You as an individual person will be doing a lot of processing by using different kind of software, and then you will represent it in the form of some diagrams, in the form of some kind of figures, maybe some kind of graphs, etc. And then you will present it to the board of directors. If that person doesn't give you the data, you cannot do anything really. So participatory ethics says that if at all you are an analytical person and you are supposed to give presentations about the major figures, major transactions, then probably the prescriptive analytics of your entire company, the person who is giving you the data, he should be very genuine. He should always be giving you all the data which you require for the purpose of processing. He should be giving all the data which is required for the processing. Then only that person is said to be following participatory ethics. Participation word is very easy and very simple to understand. When you participate in some kind of activities, your institution may be having some kind of activities where you work together in the teams. So it is always participation expected, but the most important word is voluntary. So if I ask you to make some different teams and work in a team for, let's say, some program which is happening in the institution. So you will work in a team. But then in a team of 4 or 5 people, there will be either 1 or 2 people who are not interested in working in that team. So what they will do, they will simply show you that they are working, but in reality they don't do. So what is missing is participation, because it is voluntary. We do make certain rules, regulations that all should be participating, what every individual should do. So he will be taking the minimal responsibility, the person who is not interested in doing that. So participatory ethics speaks about sharing, speaks about dealing the things in a team, speaks about communicating with the counterparts of your department, of your discipline, or maybe the people who are connected with you. And that participation should be as far as voluntary. And to happen this participation voluntarily, the organizations or the companies, they will devise the policies as far as the teamwork is concerned. And there all these norms will be very clearly mentioned, that what is your job responsibility, you are supposed to do this, you are not supposed to do this, so that every person in the team is very clear about what he is supposed to do and at the same time what he is not supposed to do. That will make the individual person to participate, and when he knows that this is the thing which I am supposed to do, he will be able to give his full participation voluntarily. So participation ethics will talk about working in a team, what rules and what regulations to be followed. Next is recognition ethics, which speaks about all the values which you learned in module number 1. So it speaks about recognition, a contemporary and a multi-purpose concept with anthropological, difficult word, political, juridical and psychological, etc. stakes. How others see you or how others see me in a necessary state in forming the understanding of who I am or who we are. So recognition ethics may not have to be made by a company as a policy. It is you will have to decide that how other people should look at me, how other people should formulate an impression about me in their minds. That depends on you and not on the company. See whether you understand this particular statement. How do you want others to see you? That don't depend on the company, but depends on you. Whether you want other people to respect you, whether you want other people to see you as a very helping person, whether you want other people to see you as a very amicable, very happy-going, very cool person in your language, then you have to create that impression by creating your behavior like that, which will follow all the values and ethics which we have learned in model number 1. Say decency, then showing respect, then participating in every activity, showing contempt to everyone, being compassionate, helping each other. So there is a big list of value systems. So if you inculcate those values in you, then you can definitely are following recognition ethics. If you are eccentric, if you are not talking good to the people, if you are shouting at the people all the time, you are always in a bad mood, people will not come to you. Rather, you will always hear this kind of discussion outside your cabin. You have become a very senior manager with a separate air conditioned cabin, and you will always hear this kind of discussion about you cabin. I have seen some managers, I have seen some people, even in academics, that I happened to go to meet them. I was just sitting outside their cabin, and I could hear the people shouting inside. Specifically, the manager was shouting to the colleagues, manager was shouting to the subordinate people, and shouting to one extent. Unfortunately, I also had once upon a time, long back when I was too junior, I had a boss. When I used to enter his cabin, I used to find something falling on the street. Some stapler used to be there, then some paperweight used to be there, some fruits used to be there on the floor, then some papers used to be there on the floor. Because I have experienced once upon a time that he called up in front of me. I was just sitting in his cabin, and then he called another of a clerk on a telephone. Come here, fast. Why are you making? When he came in, he came just in 15 seconds. Why are you late? नहीं सर आपने अभी तो बोले अभी आए हैं उस वहाँ से आने में तुमको इतना टाइम लगता है. He was on the first floor and he is sitting on the third floor. उतना टाइम तो लगेगा, but he was not ready to listen. He was in a mood of firing. So he said, okay sir, what can I do for you? He said he was having a heap of paper on his table. He took that heap of paper in the hands. This is just a good example how people behave, and you will come across many such kind of managers in your life. Mind well. You might be having your superior or what you call as a boss who is like this. He hold all the papers in the hand. Then he told me, I am trying to find out one document which I am trying to find out in this entire heap since yesterday. Go and find it out for me. And then he just threw all the papers into the air. All papers were there falling around in his cabin entirely. I was sitting on a front side chair. That person, Bechara, he lifted all the papers, collected together. It took around 1 hour to find it one simple thing. If those would have been stayed here, he would have saved the amount of time for collecting all the papers. But then that is the way most of the people behave. You will come across such kind of people in the industry where you will be working. And God knows, probably you will also become like that some or the other day. When it is possible, when it is likely to happen, when you cannot manage your own stress. This can happen only when, because you are too much stressed. And who will stress you? Your job, your work, your ability to balance work and life, which I spoke yesterday. Then your inability to cope up with the situation, inability to handle the responsibility of your position, inability to maintain the data, and all the people who are belonging to that typical generation. Some of the people from my generation also belong to the same. Those who are not technocrat, those who don't understand computers and what's handsets very easily. So those people, your older generation, maybe the generation of your grandfathers or grandmothers, those people are not very technical sound. And most of the managers who are now on the, or probably have retired or on the verge of retirement, they still are facing the problem about being techno-oriented or techno-savvy, whereas your generation is very much techno-savvy. So the managers or the middle level people who are just one generation above you, yesterday I told you, those who are born between 80 to 95, those are likely to be your seniors. So those seniors are comparatively much better as compared to my generation, who was very weak as far as the technology is concerned. So those people used to face those kind of problems, because by that time the technology was already prevailing in the industry, and these people were not able to cope up with the technology, and they used to have lot of stress because somebody used to tell him, sir, मैंने आपको email भेजा, आपने देखा नहीं, कब भेजा है, मुझे बताना चाहिए था ना, आप ऐसे बिना बताए कैसे email भेजते हो. So you will still hear some managers talking, when you send an email, tell to me that you have sent an email. Arey, what is this? Why do you require to tell? So you send an email, you call him and you tell him or send a message to him, sir, I have sent you a mail, please see. It's not required nowadays. The email will pop up on your handset, on the screen. WhatsApp messages will pop up. Of course, you have a setting where you don't want to have that pop up. But that person who's shouting on the subordinate, he doesn't know all such kind of options. So he will simply keep on shouting because he is not able to cope up with this. He is not able to read the email. I have seen some people who are not able to take a printout of one page. General managers. One general manager of a company who was some masters in arts subject, nothing to do with management, nothing to do with science. So he was the person who always used to get irritated taking a printout from a printer because he never knew how to take it. If he wants to take the printout and the printout comes to be halfly printed on the A4 size page, then he used to get confused. ऐसे कैसे आया? आगे का बाजू वाला ये साइड का हाफ कहाँ गया? Then some technical person will come, sir, इसको तो आपको लैंडस्केप पे प्रिंट लेना चाहिए था, वो क्या होता है? सर उसको पेज को ऐसा आड़ा करना है, तो फिर कैसे करते हैं? करो मुझे करके दो. So this person will always be shouting on others. Why? Because of his own inability. So here we are talking about recognition ethics. This person will never recognize the person who is even technically sound because he is not able to understand what this other person is doing. So recognition ethics is talking about giving importance, giving due importance at least. I'll tell you my own story. Some 7-8 years before, I left one earlier institution where I was working as a director, and then I joined some other institution. So on the last day, I thanked everyone. Then I told them that I am very much thankful to you that your help was very much good to me in my journey, etc. So that was a standard talk which I made. I can tell you very proudly that the entire staff and entire teaching colleagues, they were crying. The only reason is that I was following recognition. If something is not working with my computer system, I used to call that person who was just 6 years working with that organization, just joined as a fresher. He might have been around 26, 27 years of age, and I was 50 at that time. So when a particular problem is there, I used to call that person and I used to declare in the common meeting that because of him I could sort out the problem. That feels that person elevated. I always will be telling that what is the age of my experience. You know, there is a saying in English which says that if somebody is telling you that I have got 21 years of experience, it is actually 1 year of experience 21 times. Means you are doing the same thing for last 21 years of your tenure, you are not having 21 years of experience unless you are making updation. So if I come across any difficulty, I am stuck up at some particular place, I will call that person who might be so much junior, but then he is junior only because of age. But the kind of expertise which he has, I don't have. Try and understand, this is one of the very excellent ethics which all of you have to follow when you work in the industry. When you are not aware about a particular field, your seniority has got no meaning. And you accept that. If you have done HR, if your background graduation is some arts, then MBA HR, PGDM HR, and then you are stuck up at some financial transactions, you are not understanding it, you call an account clerk and you try to get it understood from him. What is the use of you being an HR manager, senior HR manager with 15 years of experience? You don't understand the transactions. Why you don't understand? Because you don't belong to that particular fraternity. So what is the harm in accepting that you don't understand? But then the one major factor which many of us, typically the management fraternity, will come across is the ego. The more I go up in the hierarchy, I will become senior, I will become senior manager, I will become CEO of the organization. But if you don't understand balance sheet, you are not eligible to become a CEO. At that level, the more higher you go, you are supposed to know more and more. If you do not know, you call those people, recognize them, and then people will accept. Okay? So try and understand the importance of every individual human being. Don't see the human being from your own spectacles. They say that your viewpoint ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है. Your viewpoint is only your limitation of looking at the people. So look at the people from different perspective. If you are not technically sound, give the due importance to that person. Because of whom you can sort out your problem. So he should be given due importance, he should be given recognition. So why people know you? or the way you want yourself to be known, you have to be behaving like. And that's what we call as participatory ethics. So these are not, recognition ethics. So these are not written anywhere, these are to be followed by every individual. Maintaining the dignity of individuals as well as dignity of the groups. The act of publicly acknowledging your people for who they are and what they do. I always do it as this may be a very personal, highly personal example, but then in my car, which I have not come in my car today, but then in my car at the backside in the dicky, I have got a bag full of gifts. So anybody comes across somebody's birthday is there, somebody gets some kind of recognition, I have got some gift ready for any person. At any given, any age, any sex, any gender, I have got a bag, 2 bags full in my dicky all the time. Like last week there was some competition in MIT WPU in Pune. So I carried out their activity on team ethics. How do you follow the team value system? How do you develop? So I asked them to play one game, which we will also be playing next time, next class for our unit number 4. So the winner team was supposed to be given some kind of gifts. So I always have something ready in mind. So I took the gifts and I give it to all the students. So just like that, whosoever come across in my life, who is contributing something positive to my life, I always have some recognition for that person. I don't say that every one of you should carry that gift bag in your car, but then you have to recognize. The way you recognize that totally depends upon you. Even if you simply pat the back of somebody, that person will feel elevated. The peon who is giving me service here, he went to, yesterday he went with me to the guest house, he dropped me there. He was not having an umbrella. He said, sir, aapko bahar jana hai to umbrella lagega, humne laye nahi. So he went back to me. I simply praised him, nothing else. Then he will tell to all the people, he will be telling to you also, sir, I come achhe the. What I did for him? Nothing. I have not given him a single rupee, not any kind of gift. But it's only recognition. And recognition, there is one video, I'll try to get the link, which is talking about appreciation. So the more appreciation you do for the people, the more you will be liked by the people. But at the same time, recognition is okay on one side, but at the same time you should be very much sound in the area where you are specializing in. Self-apple polishing is not required. You have to be very much expertise and knowledgeable in your area, and then this acknowledging publicly will definitely help you to maintain proper system wherever you work. Now these are few factors which will influence the business ethics. We'll see one by one with some examples. Personal code of ethics, that is individual ethics. Just I was telling you that whatever ethics I follow, those are totally my personal ethics in line with the value system which is acceptable universally. So they call it as UHV, Universal Human Values. So you go to any country, any religion, all the castes, they will follow that particular value system. So those will be, I have to pick up some of the values there and make those values as virtues as we discussed yesterday only. So following certain values and inculcating those values in me is called as a virtue which I possess. So personal ethics or individual values are something which every individual will possess. I have written some examples, Ratan Tata, Einstein, Cyrus Mystery. I have forwarded one forward to Bhavin. Can you just open that document? That is an article which has come on Cyrus Mystery. I hope all of you know that he recently died in a car crash. He was sitting in a backside without seat belts. Yesterday also I mentioned about it. So safety of a craft, safety of you yourself. हाँ शेयर मत करो, उसको पढ़ना है अभी. That you will understand how people follow personal ethics. You can share it later, अभी सिर्फ पढ़िए. सुन रहे हैं नहीं? So the one who has got a strong internet, forward to him or her. नहीं load. Just give it to me and read for you. Okay, this is an article written by somebody. Okay, listen to this. Listen to this. This will be forwarded to you by Bhavin. The title of the article is Cyrus Mistry liked road travel, loved Maharashtrian food, recalls ex-bureaucrat. Now this has been recalled by ex-bureaucrat means somebody who was in a government service. Former bureaucrat Ganesh Jagtap says he will miss Cyrus Mistry's compassionate nature and love for Maharashtrian food. The former chairman of Tata Sons was killed in car crash near Mumbai on Sunday. Former bureaucrat Ganesh Jagtap says that he will miss Cyrus Mistry. Cyrus Mistry's compassionate nature and love. Two important words: compassionate nature and love, which were one of the list under the values. The former chairman of Tata Sons was killed in car crash near Mumbai. Very humble, compassionate and down to earth. All the three words are talking about the value system which every one of us is expected to follow. Very humble, compassionate and down to earth. This is how Cyrus was when we first met. Now this bureaucrat is named as Mr. Ganesh Jagtap. He is talking about Cyrus Mistry. He was always like that. Like that means what? Humble, compassionate and down to earth. He was very fond of roadside food like vada pav, pav bhaji and tea from roadside vendors. Jagtap says, recalling some of their trips to Maharashtra and Gujarat, Mistry was fond of Maharashtrian food. In particular, he said, a former deputy collector who also served as an aide to former home minister and ministry used to call him wherever there was a land acquisition matter. He always liked to travel by road, Cyrus Mistry. He preferred road travel even when air travel option was available, he added. His striking characteristics was his down-to-earth attitude and simplicity. I am not asking you to read this article about his food habits and liking of Maharashtrian food, vada pav, etc. But we are talking about his striking characteristic was his down-to-earth attitude and simplicity. During one of his site visits, he used to inquire about employees' health and well-being. Cyrus Mistry, I hope you know who he was. Who was he? कौन था? Cyrus Mistry. Otherwise, this reading will be in vain. He would come out of his office to drop me to the car. The bureaucrat turned entrepreneur who lived in Thane said he accompanied Mistry to Gujarat at letters insistence for land acquisition of a port. When fresh and acquisition received local opposition, the rates were revised and a high compensation was offered. Cyrus decided to apply the revised higher rates to the people whose land was already acquired, even though legally he was not bound to do so. So for some Tata project, they were trying to acquire the land in Gujarat. So he has paid extra money to the people to whom whose lands were already acquired. Though legally he was not allowed because the transaction was already done. But then he was so much considerate person that if the new land is purchased at some different rates, why the older people should suffer because of that. The decision entailed an additional cost of 15 crore. He bore the brunt, he added. Such virtue is rare. His one decision changed the outlook of the people towards the company and they cooperated in further process as well. So you could see that there are many cases of many companies for their own manufacturing plant, they are acquiring the lands, maybe the agricultural land at times, and they pay to that particular landowner certain fixed amount of money as the rate decided by the government prevailing at that time or the area in that particular area. So what he has done, they were requiring some additional space or additional land in that area. So he has given the new rate to the new land acquisition cases. So same rate he has paid to the earlier people, though the land was purchased earlier, the transaction was done earlier. So this is the special virtue that he was considerate even the people, why they should suffer. What is their what is something wrong with them if they have done the transaction something before the time. So he has to invest somewhere around 15 crore, but then he did it, and that has created the different outlook of the people towards the company, and they cooperate in the further process as well. You might have seen some movies in relation to this topic of land acquisition, then some political party wants to start something, then what are different kind of negative things happening in the society. There are many such movies. So he used to recommend me to others. He went out of the way and helped me. Such generous and warm treatment is rare, and I will miss him for sure. So this Ganesh Jagtap was a person who was PS2, our former state minister, deputy chief minister. So he went through there through the MPSC examination, and he happened to be one of my close friends. So he sent me this article. So he was very close to Cyrus Mistry, and he was talking about his personal ethics. Personally being down to earth, you will never think about some CEO of a company standing on a roadside and eating vada pav. So that indicates a simplicity which is also virtue, which we should try to develop. And I have already given you an example of Ratan Tata earlier, that he at times has lunch or takes the lunch along with the workers in the canteen, right? So that is the way personal ethics could be displayed or could be shown by the people. Legislation is definitely the factor which will influence your business ethics. So there are certain rules and regulations made as far as the environmental protections are concerned. Some example which I have written, those are the personal rules and regulations made by the personal conduct and personal ethics. So for example, spitting on the road is not allowed in India, right? It is not allowed, at present it is legally you could be punished. There were boards painted on the roadside earlier that if you spit on the road you will have to pay 100 rupees fine every time you spit. But then people still do it. So government is trying, they have got a special squad who will catch hold of some such people, they will have to fine. They might be taken to the court if they reject to pay that fine. What government is trying to make the people understand, it's not the law, but it is about the ethics at the personal level. And there used to be a caption that, do you spit in your home, then why spit on the road? Which is not making you to understand the rule and regulation, but it is making you to understand the ethical values of your act. Don't do that. That is the awareness which they are trying to do. Even wearing a helmet is a rule, right? If you don't wear the helmet, you will have to pay some fine if you are caught, of course. And Pune is one city where people have got a very strong opposition to wearing the helmet. You will find that 80% people in Pune are not wearing helmets. They will say, what you have to do with us? It is we will take care of our heads. So there was a caption which was saying a caption that you have got a scratch guard for your handsets, but then you don't use helmet for your brain. That is what they are trying to make the people inculcate the ethics and values. Why this helmet is required? It's not the government is mad and made some kind of a rule. It is for your own safety. But then people in Pune are said to be, in the world they are said to be known as a very brainy people. So they say, we'll take care about our brain. You don't have to worry about it. So we will not follow the rules and regulations. But still some people followed. So government, I mean the RTO started creating an awareness rather than making it a compulsion and asking you to pay a fine for not following the rules and regulations. So every government offices, when it comes to all such kind of legalities are concerned, all government offices will, departments will try to make you or make the public aware about the negative things what will happen if you don't follow. If you don't follow traffic rules, what will happen? If you're talking on a mobile, there's a rule. But then if you talk on the mobile, what will happen? They have forwarded some kind of clippings or video clippings where a person was driving and talking on a mobile and he met with an accident, he died. So they are trying to create the awareness so that people will follow those things as an ethics and not as a rule and regulation. So try and understand this. So legalities are there, some rules, regulations are there, laws are there, which will take you to the court, which will put you behind the jails, but then awareness is more important. Provident Fund. There is an act, yesterday I mentioned about it, it's called as the Provident Fund Act. You will be surprised to know that Provident Fund Act is more stringent even than an income tax. Even if you don't pay income tax, that's also okay. You will be fined for additional amount along with an interest you have to pay. That's okay. But then if you don't pay a provident fund, you will be put behind the jail or behind the bars for 6 months without bail. That is the provision provident fund. What is the meaning of provision fund? Have you heard of this word PF? Provident Fund. There is something called as PPF. It's also called as PPF, Public Provident Fund. What is the purpose of Provident Fund? Any idea? क्या होता है? किस लिए होता है? After retirement. Okay. Provident Fund is saving compulsorily made by you, and the employer will also contribute to it, and that will be deposited with the government. Once you get retired, you will get all that money for yourself. Because after retirement, what is your future? The government has stopped giving the pensions for the jobs which are after 2015. So even if you join a government job, you will not have pension. But if you see all the people who retire from government job, they will have pension till the time they die. After their death, their spouse will get the pension till the time he or she dies. So therefore, there was a lot of importance given to the people getting a government job, because there is a provident fund, there is gratuity, and there is pension. So when you are getting a salary, certain amount is deducted from your salary, and same amount is additionally paid by the employer and deposited with the government under your separate account, just like a bank account, and it's called as a provident fund account. So suppose from your salary, if 1,800, that is the maximum they can deduct, 1,800 rupees is deducted from your salary, another 1,800 rupees the employer will add, 3,600 rupees will be deposited in your name every month. So you can just calculate 3,600 into 12, that much amount of money deposited in your account for first year. If you work with that company for 20 years, you can just calculate the interest which will be generated. When you leave the company, I mean typically talking about the government job, when you leave a government job, you will be paid a gratuity. Now gratuity is the amount of payment made to you for your loyalty towards that company or towards that particular organization. Suppose you work with that company for 10 years, means 10 years you were loyal with that company. 15 years, 20 years, the more you work, the more your gratuity amount will increase, because it will be calculated based on your last salary you are drawing at the age of, let's say, after working for 20 years you are on the verge of retirement, or even if you leave the company in between. The condition is that you should have worked with the company for 5 years continuous, then only the gratuity will be paid. So if you work for 20 years, maybe 20 years before your salary might have been say 50,000 rupees. Now your salary has gone to 3 lakh rupees. So you will be paid the gratuity based on your 3 lakh rupees salary. They have got a simple formula to calculate. You will have to multiply it by 15 divided by 30 into 26. 26 divided by 30, total of your salary divided by 26 into 15. Means half months of salary into number of years you worked. Suppose 3 lakhs is your salary, and let's say all the allowances cut from the salary, your half month salary comes to, let's say, 1 lakh rupees. And if you work for 24 years, 20 years, so 1 lakh into 24 lakh rupees you will get as a graduate. So that's the reason why many people were behind the government jobs, because they will get provident fund, they will get gratuity, and till the time they die, based on some calculations which are very much complicated, I cannot explain off the front. So based on some calculation, you will be getting the pension. What government people call it as a full pension. If you work with government department for 20 years plus, you will get full pension, which will be calculated based on again your last month's salary, and you will get that pension till the time you die. Even if you don't get a retirement, but if you work for 20 years with the government, you will get PF, gratuity, and pension till you die. If you are a government servant and your husband is not, if you happen to die early before your husband will continue to get that pension till the time he dies. That is the provision. So if husband in a government service, the wife will keep on getting the pension even after the husband dies. So those are the facilities which are being given by the government. What we have come out of the discussion is legislation. So there are rules and regulations to be followed by each and everyone. PF, gratuity, pension, these are all rules and regulations. But government has stopped giving you the pension for the jobs after 2015. So even if you get a government job, you will not get a pension. You might get provident fund, you might get gratuity, but you will not be getting paid after you retire or after you leave the company till you die. Nobody is going to pay. So therefore, what has happened? Insurance companies come up with a pension scheme. So if your company, most of the companies don't give pensions, rather private companies do not give pensions. They will give you provident fund, they will give you gratuity. Some of the companies will be giving it, but not most of them will give. So what about your future? You get retired at the age of 60, and you will see that the average age of Indian human beings is somewhere around 56. So it doesn't matter even if you don't get a pension. But then there are cases you might be knowing who can live up to 84. I know one of my friends' grandfather who is 95 now, and he was working. He is retired as a Provident Fund Commissioner. You can just imagine how much amount of pension he might be getting even today. At the age of 94, half the time in the year he is with in US with his son, and half the time he is in India. So still getting a pension. He is a musician and he keeps on doing anchoring in many music shows. He is getting money from that also. But he is still getting the pension. That is what I am trying to tell you. There are rules and regulations which every company has to follow. But then talking about the legislations are maybe day-to-day things which we follow and we are expected to follow. I have given you few examples of following traffic rules, not spitting on the road, wearing helmets, or even day-to-day rules we have to follow. And then we have to follow it as an ethics, not because somebody has made a rule. So we have to understand the importance of it, and that's why we diverted from a point that government is trying to make you aware that this is the positive thing, these are the negative things, if you follow, if you don't follow, simultaneously. So separating dry waste and wet waste. There is no such kind of a rule, but then they are trying to make you understand the ethics. Why that is required? Because waste management is one of the biggest problems our country is facing. Some tons of waste is generated in Pune, in Mumbai. You can just see yesterday there was a ebb on the seashore. You could see how much amount of dirt is there. A lot of waste material. People throw plastics, people throw unused things, people throw the food also items in, everything in sea. And all the rivers in the entire country, they come and meet the sea. So you can see, you just walk around in the break, how much amount of lot of waste material is lying around. And there is waste collecting bin also I have seen on this side, you can see from here. I think that was for Ganpati purpose. Right? Collecting of Nirmalya as they say. So that is supposed to be recycled. So recycling of all such material is the solution for all the problems which our country is facing about waste management, which is one of the biggest problems our country is facing, and e-waste management is the biggest problem which the entire world is facing. The more you are going to the digitalization, the more you are going to computerization, more you are going to technologically advancement. Everybody is having handsets nowadays. What do you do to the handset after 1 year, 2 years? You will change it. What do you do with the handset? That might be lying somewhere in your house. It is not working anyway. It is almost outdated. Nobody is using it because it's not working. Maybe the battery is down, the start nahi hota hai, display nahi aata hai. So you will keep it in your home and house, and you will throw it off someday. What will happen to that? E-waste is a big problem which the entire world is facing. So there are many NGOs, there are many social organizations. Just morning only I got a message from one of such environmental awareness, environmental conservation. A is something, some company, ECA, they are working on environmental awareness, and such kind of awareness is being made to the people. So she called me in the morning. She said, we want to carry out a campaign in your college, that e-waste collection. So we'll be coming to your college and we'll collect the e-waste from the students. So what are your e-waste? Maybe the data card which is now not working. Maybe some handset which is not working. Maybe the laptop which is idling, which is out of order. So whatever electronic items are there, that they will collect. Whichever usable parts are there, they will separate it out and they will give to the manufacturing companies in a scrap. Why? Because you need to do this. Before that, I was talking about dry and wet waste. Every city is making the people understand to separate dry waste and wet waste. In Mumbai also, on the roadside, on the footpath, you will find two different dustbins. One is for the dry waste and another is for the wet waste. So that is again trying to make us understand that separation is required to be made for the dry waste and for the wet waste, because the processing of the things as far as its extinguishing is concerned, or maybe doing away with that waste is concerned, that processes are different. There are plants which will be dealing with such kind of waste, which is called a waste treatment plant. So there are certain materials which could be recyclable, which could be recycled. There are certain materials which cannot be recycled. So you have to either throw it off or incinerate, means that is burnt. But then burning will again cause some kind of environmental issues. Air pollution will be there. So there is a big question to almost all the countries about waste management and e-waste management nowadays. So if this is made as a rule, then people will follow it. Not with much of interest being taken in, but if you make the people aware about separating this waste, then the people will be very effectively following it. I have been in Japan where I have seen that the government will give you the dustbins. 3 color dustbins they give: red color, blue color, and green color. Green color is for dry waste, blue is for wet waste, and red is for non-vegetarian waste. Because in Japan everybody eats non-vegetarian. Non-vegetarian is vegetarian for them. Fish they consider as a vegetarian food. Okay, so non-vegetarian food separately to be distinguished than wet waste and dry waste. So why government is doing it? To make the people behave ethically and to follow these norms so that the government will find it easier for the further processing. So they create the awareness. If you put everything in one dustbin, then government may not be able to do anything. They will not fine you. But then again, it is the question of awareness. It is the question of following ethics at the personal level. So from the perspective of business ethics, the companies who are having such kind of waste generated, they will guide you what is to be done with this kind of waste which is generated because of their product. So they are making you aware by separating such kind of waste, cleanliness in public places. Do we have to make a rule for such kind of thing to happen? Cleanliness at the roads, on the roads. Just like that, when we are walking, you might see the people throwing a lot of things on the roadsides. Do we do it at our home? We don't do it. So that's how the government generate the campaign that do you do this in your home? Don't do it on the roadside. So why do you need to make the government to tell you all those things? Why the cleanliness which is taught to all of us since our school days is not followed by individual? So we have to do it. So government may at times will make a rule that you will have to keep the things very much clean. I was just remembering one instance in the process I forgot. Fine. Leadership is also one of the ethics. Being a leader is an ethics. You have to be very ethical leader because people will always follow the leader. That's why the word leader has come. Leader means who leads, who is there always on the front, who will always show them how it is to be done. Again, with reference to the example which I had given you earlier, that the person, if you leader, your top officer, your superior or your boss is the person who is always shouting at you, then you will not definitely follow him, you will not definitely like him. So leader is the person who should exemplify by his deeds, who should be able to demonstrate what he wants to do. So we call it as a demonstrative leader or a participatory leader is much better as compared to the autocratic leader. Yesterday we discussed about autocratic. Autocratic means who will always shout, who will always leave orders or give you the orders and commands and you will do the work. He will not do anything. Nobody will be liking such kind of a leader. If you are not doing anything and just telling the others to do, you will not be liked by others. So you are supposed to be a demonstrative leader. That if I want you to do like this, if I want you to come on time, I should be first of all on time. Then I will be definitely expecting you to come on time. So there are a few names which I have written. The second name is related to your organization. Tilak and Agarkar, who started with Deccan Society in 1880. And then they started Ferguson College as the first graduate college in 1885. It is that old. And I think this college started somewhere in 1956. This Kirti College. So these were the people who were the leaders. These people were said to be visionaries. Ferguson College was started before Pune University started, and now it is under Pune University Autonomous College. So these people were there who have thought what is required into the future. What is going to be the future of our country? What is required in the future as far as the women education is concerned? Maharishi Karve's Education Sanstha, one of the biggest educational institution in Pune. They had thought of that every girl and every woman has the right to take education. Till that time, girls were not sent to the schools and colleges. Girls, they were only supposed to look after their children and supposed to look after the cooking and feeding the entire family. That was only her job. Nobody has thought of that girls should take education. I could see that more girls are just sitting in front of me. So you should thank Mr. Karve, who has come out with this kind of a concept. And though not as a leader, he never wanted to become a leader. But then by virtue of his doing the service to the society, he has become a leader today. Tilak Agarkar, who started with Deccan Education Society, there were other, Mr. Nam Doshi was also there, and there was Chiplunkar. So 4 people were there who started with Deccan Education Society. Now DE Society has got 59 education institutions, including schools, colleges, then MBA college, etc., PGDM college. 59. How this could happen? Thousands of people are learning through this education institution, and some thousands of teachers and non-teaching staff is being trained. So this is a quality of a leader that he sees into the future. We always call Mahatma Gandhi as one of the greatest leaders of a country. Why? Because he has thought what is the way that British people will be living the India. If we try to go against them, they will never live India. So he followed the principle of what? Non-violence. Principle of non-violence he followed, and then he got the independence for our country. So he has seen, Mahatma Gandhi has seen, even for that matter, all the freedom fighters, they were seeing the future of our India. They wanted India to get freedom from Britishers. So they did their efforts from their own way. But still, they are called as leaders because they were following certain ethics. And there were two types of thought processes. One thought process was one which was followed by Mahatma Gandhi, and the another which was followed by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So they have got a different way of behavior. They have different way of dealing with Britishers. But then ultimate intention was same. So they wanted to have India as a separate independent country, which fortunately Mahatma Gandhi could see it. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose died before the independence. No, I think he is also just cross-check. I may be wrong. Somebody can Google when Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose died. I guess after independence. Quick. Before 1948? 45. So he couldn't see the independence. Of course, there is still a question whether he really died or there was some kind of mispractices done at that time. Okay. Then there was another freedom fighter, the founder of the society, Lokmanya Balakrishna Tilak, who was also one of the biggest freedom fighters of that time. He showed to the people how the strategies which were followed by Mahatma Gandhi were wrong according to him. He has got his own methodology. But then he couldn't see the independence. He died somewhere in 1920. So there were many freedom fighters. We take the names of all the top-notch people who have got some thinking and thought process, and which was at their places, which was very much ethical. So leaders were there, all those leaders, these are all the leaders of earlier time. Then Mother Teresa is one, Dalai Lama we know as a leader, Swami Vivekananda who has done a tremendous work as far as the spiritual sciences concerned from India. Azim Premji, as far as our today's business world is concerned, he is supposed to be the leader. So all the leaders or founders of the companies like Tata's, Birla's, Ambani's, Wipro, Azim Premji, etc. So these are all people who can be said to be the examples of the leadership, and that too ethical leadership. I have yesterday shown you the names of few companies. So the owners of those companies, founders of those companies are the ethical leaders, so to say, because they followed, they devised leadership, they designed leadership in a particular way. There is one more name written here, Dr. V.T. Karat, who is the founder of MIT World Peace University. They have got two universities in Pune. He is also one of the person who has seen what is the need of today's student education as well as the need of the country. So he has come out with a peace movement in the entire world. So every year they organize the international conference where the participants from almost the entire world come. And they have created a World Peace Dome somewhere in Doni Carbon near Pune. That is supposed to be one of the biggest domes in the world. And that they call it as a Peace Dome. So their vision is to bring peace not only in Pune, Maharashtra, but to the entire world. There is another university in Pune, which I have told you the name earlier, Symbiosis University, SIU, they call it as Symbiosis International University. The caption of Symbiosis University is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which we have seen in module number 1. That means this entire world, entire earth is just like one family. So everybody in the world is just like your brother or sister or your sibling. So we have to teach that. So Symbiosis International University has got highest number of international students as compared to any universities in Maharashtra, because they are really practicing it. So that could happen only through the leaders and their business ethics which they have designed at the time of starting with their particular endeavor. Can we take a break? I was saying the same.